The whole concept of survival of consciousness. Does one survive the dissolution of the physical body? There's a part of us that psychologists call the ego that serves us very well. It protects and defends and is all about preservation of the physical. Not that it makes any sense, because there's never been anybody who's gotten out of here alive, kind of a thing. It's sort of an inevitable situation, but it does very well. It protects us from things. It keeps us from walking in front of cars and doing dangerous things and so forth and so on. So there's this attempt on the part of body consciousness in this preservation. So when the question comes up, well, do I, this thing I know as me right now, survive physical death? Meaning all of my memories, all of my experiences, all of my friends, all the relationships I built, the last person I make love to, will all of that go with me when I leave? And so there's two things there. Either it's lights out, or the thing I know as me continues. And I don't think the answer lies in just two things. Okay? First of all, it's curious to me about if it's lights out, so what? I mean, it's not like you're going to be there worrying that it's lights out. See, I told you, it's all dark, there's nothing here. Because if you're there thinking about that, well then you're still there thinking about that. So it's an interesting argument, like, well, what if I don't live on? Well, you aren't going to be worried about it if you don't, so therefore, if in fact one does survive consciousness itself, one's idea of self survives what we see as death, the question is it me that survives, and all my memories and everything that I've done in life, do I then carry that with me as I move on? Well, I don't think that that's exactly true, based on my own experience in those realms. Plus, my kids used to ask me, Daddy, what is it like when you die? I mean, that obviously is something that comes up with your children when you're growing up. And my answer to them was, imagine you're dreaming at night and you have a dream life about you're doing this, you're running and you're playing and so forth and so on. And then when you wake up here in the morning, what happened to that person in the dream? Do you remember everything that went on? If time passes, do you even remember what the dream was about? And they would say no, or I remember I was, and, oh gee, I can't remember now. It was really a neat dream, but I just can't quite remember it. And I said, well, that's what dying's going to be like. You're going to wake up, and for a little while, you'll remember the things that go on here. And you might remember a few really important things that went on here. But for the most part, you'll become involved in wherever you are. Just like when you wake up at night from your nighttime dreams, you wake up here, and those things just go away, and you're into your day, and you go to school, and you play with your friends, and that occupies who and what you are. And so that seemed to be an answer that was comforting for them. They weren't afraid at that point that they would lose who and what I am now. And I think that's probably the way they still feel about that. And as I think about having gone through probably 30 or 40 years since I told my kids that, I'm over 60 now, so it's been a while since I told my kids that, I think that probably encapsulates what I know about this experience of death. I don't know if you ever read the report of Arthur Ford and him reporting on what it was like in the after-death experience. He said that he felt like at death that he walked into a boardroom and everybody turned to him, and he knew that he had just left this room just before this, had gone out to get a report and was bringing the report to the board members. Now that out the door and in the door was a whole lifetime here. But it was as though somebody said, go live a lifetime and find out what color trees are and report back, whatever, you know, and he felt like it was just the briefest flash in time in relationship to what he was doing in the world he experienced in afterlife. So that's been my experience too in venturing into those realms, that like Bob Monroe in his visits to Locale 2 and beyond, that in the totality of all the universe and all the dimensions of which we occupy, this is not unimportant, but very brief, like there were time, brief is a time word, very brief, very momentary, very minuscule, and yet not unimportant in the grand totality of everything, which is the true nature of who we really are.